Correctly with the correct amount.
D20 Radio, where gamers roll.
www.d20radio.com.
Remember, Joan, her fairy godmother counseled as she led her up the steps. Trust no one. They all know how important you are, how special. Everyone will want something from you. You cannot give it to them. She tilted Joan's face towards hers, the cat-like slits of her violet eyes seeming to bore into Joan's own silvery orbs. You are mine, not theirs. They cannot have any power over you unless you let them. I won't let them, Joan promised. I remember all your lessons, Godmother. I've even watched you with your hound. I'm ready, I promise. Do not give vows so lightly, child, her godmother chastised softly. But you are right. The time has come for you to be presented to the court. They walked out of the stairway together, the narrow passage opening up to reveal a great stone courtyard, the mist-covered ground sporting a fresh coat of fallen leaves, the sides of the courtyard lined with trees displaying the full splendor of autumn's bright aurora. Above them, the sky was a mix of soft pink and violet, the sun having already made its way past the horizon, but leaving some of its fading light behind. Before them was the court of Avalon, the Sidhe arrayed in all their glory, beauty, and splendor, and all of them were looking at her. Suddenly, Joan didn't feel quite so confident. Joan walked out to stand before the crowd, feeling her godmother's presence behind her, along with the weight of the gazes of all those before her. She looked down at her crimson gown, embroidered with silver vines, and what had seemed so beautiful when she put it on now seemed so pedestrian. Looking out at the gathered Sidhe, they all possessed an ethereal beauty beyond anything she could ever have. She felt small, insignificant, fake. You are not insignificant. Her godmother's voice rang through her mind, sharp and commanding. You are mine. Nothing of mine is insignificant or fake. See beyond their glamour, child. They wish you to think yourself less than you are because it gives them power over you. Do not let them. See them and yourself in truth. Joan took a deep breath and closed her eyes, focusing on seeing deeper. When she opened her eyes, she looked out into the crowd again, but this time she pushed through the nearly overwhelming sensation of insignificance and their collective aura of grandeur to look at them one by one, stripping the glamour from them in her mind's eye. She saw then that there was a wrongness to their beauty, something unnatural. Some were too thin, not like a person might if they starved themselves, but as if their bones themselves were as thin as toothpicks. Others had scales that only looked like skin at a casual glance, while others had mouths filled with needle-like fangs or eyes like those of a goat. They were still supernaturally beautiful, but the illusion of perfection had been stripped away. These were not angels or gods, beings so far above her that she could hardly imagine them. They were fae, and she had lived among the fae all her life. She smiled then and confidently continued forward, the crowd parting before her. A handsome young man in a blood-red cap stepped up to one side of her, announcing loudly, "Introducing the ward of Our Lady Morgan, the young Joan Le Fay." Joan Le Fay. That surprised her, as well as apparently the entire court. A ripple of confusion went through the crowd, their predatory smiles faltering for just a second. Joan Le Fay. Morgan had just given Joan a part of her name. For all intents and purposes, she had just declared Joan her own daughter, making her a human, a mortal, a noble among the She. When that finally sunk in, Joan couldn't keep from beaming, her chest feeling like it was about to burst with joy. Then she saw the subtle glances the fairy nobles were giving each other, the lords, ladies, and everything in between thinking the same thing. Morgan had just left herself vulnerable. A name has power, even just a portion of one. Some of her power was now tied to Joan. Before, claiming power over Joan would have simply been an easy way to slight Morgan without fearing reprisal. Now, it would undermine Morgan's power and potentially provide an opportunity for others. "Oh no, you don't!" Joan snarled silently, her grin vanishing. "You can't get to Godmother through me, you traitors. I won't let you!" They all thought she, this little girl, was a simple mortal, easily deceived, easily played. But she was raised by Morgan Le Fay in the heart of Fairy. She was no simple mortal, and they were going to be very surprised. She looks down and smiles slightly, and her voice is a haunting song. Like a song mourning the loss of a loved one and ages gone by. "Ah, dearest daughter, I knew that you'd return to us."
Voltaire just turns and looks at Joan.
Yeah, Rian's kind of looking at her too right now.
And then looks back up at the 7-foot-tall goddess.
"And you, my faithful hound, thank you for bringing her home."
Rian just looks at Cayden and then at her too. It's like, huh?
And Joan just sighs. "Everyone, this is my godmother, Morgan Le Fay."
There's a distinctive, like it's a mixture of pain, even a little bit of regret just all across Cayden's face. But upon being addressed as her faithful hound, he instinctively chooses to bow.
Elianna here is getting ever since she set foot here, she's had a distinct feeling of wrongness.
Oh, yeah.
She should not be here.
Nope. Should not be. I imagine there's enough information here for Elianna to put together precisely why she feels like she should not be here.
Oh, yeah. She is on the opposite side of the Fae situation here.
Yep. As soon as she stepped through that way, it's similar as to when she walked up to the poker game. She's just, put on a face. And so she's, throughout this, stayed completely straight-faced, but you can tell that she's doing a lot of math in her head right now.
Rian is, the only one that probably has no clue what's going on.
No, as soon as Joan said Morgan Le Fay, Voltaire just backed up to stand beside Elianna. He's just like, this is bad news. Bad news bears. Not good. Situation not improving.
Rian's just standing his ground right next to Cayden because he has no idea what the heck is up with everyone.
Oh, the ignorance.
His naivete might still save him in this situation. We still don't know.
What?
Anyway, moving on.
While we de-stress from all this.
That's funny.
So, my darling daughter, what are these toys you have brought with you? They are my friends and allies, and as such, they have right to claim sanctuary here.
Voltaire's eyes he just stares.
Yes, they do have the right to sanctuary here in Avalon, so long as you remain with them. I do hope that their stay is a long one. It is so good to have you back with us.
Rian just gets a bit of a chill at that long time statement.
Voltaire leans over to Elianna and he's just like, what have we gotten ourselves into?
Elianna just sort of shakes her head very slightly.
By this time, Cayden has slowly risen up, but he's still not saying anything. There is a significant mixture of emotion all over his face.
So in this really, really tense moment, the air suddenly shifts as the air gets suddenly warmer, and you smell wildflowers. As around a corner comes what looks almost like an inversion of Morgan. Her beauty is ancient and frightening, almost. This woman looks like she has barely reached womanhood. She is the epitome of youthful beauty. Her hair and gown are like the dawn. Her eyes bright green, and her gown is decorated in wildflowers. To be specific, in spring flowers. Everywhere she steps, flowers grow. Daffodils, lilies. There's all these flowers grow in her footsteps. You needn't be so cruel with them, please. Friends, please come. And Joan actually looks confused now.
Cayden actually, if he wasn't already uncomfortable before, he is extremely uncomfortable now.
He and Joan can easily just sense that.
Morgan smiles again, though her smiles are a lot. It's probably giving you a little bit of like mental whiplash looking between these two, because like this woman, when she smiles at you, it's a genuine, loving, gentle smile. Like this woman is genuinely happy to see you, and you just get the feeling that like she wants you to be happy and safe. And you look at Morgan, and her smiles kind of chill you to the bone. And so Morgan smiles again, and says, "You have come at a fortuitous time, daughter and hound. It's been a long time, longer than you've been alive, since I have had a visit from my dear sister, Elaine." Cue everyone writing Elaine in there.
Do I know who this is?
You could make a knowledge supernatural check with your blue die because it is related to the Seelie Fae.
I would like to when that is convenient.
What is your knowledge supernatural?
My knowledge supernatural is 2 yellow.
Elaine is way above any Seelie Fae you have met.
Mm-hmm.
Elaine is basically the second most powerful in the Seelie court, beneath only the Seelie Queen herself.
Oh, wow.
Okay.
Elaine is the Lady of Spring, the Lady of the Dawn. She kind of has domain over youth, childhood, new life, new growth, birth, everything on that side of the spectrum of things, of that part of life cycle.
Okay. Wow. Thanks.
Yeah, we just get into a whole new form of intensity right now.
This is a lot.
I love that every session has been further increasing of the out-of-depth bar and gap that Rian has. Like, he hasn't moved yet, even with his new experiences, and that bar's just going like even further and further away from him.
We just took a big jump.
Rian
big
is
one.
completely out of his league at this point.
And so Elaine touches Morgan on the shoulder. Elaine is slightly shorter than Morgan. She's only 6'10".
Only 6'10".
Only 6'10".
Morgan is all harsh angles. It feels like you could cut yourself on her. Elaine is all round edges, but as in like there's no edges. She's got a little more meat on her bones than Morgan. Elaine looks like someone that it would be good to hug,
but no one dares do.
Not. It's you kind of like get the urge to hug her just looking at her.
Like, Elaine, you could probably do it and not come away with any nasty side effects.
Morgan, you don't want to hug her, and you're pretty sure if you tried, you would die.
Yeah.
Morgan is a distant beauty, like so beautiful, she's above you. Like Elaine is girl next door beautiful. She's personable.
It's comfortable.
I can't stress enough the like yin yang here.
There's like a coziness. There's a coziness and comfort, like comfort, just kind of being around her. She'd give off this kind of just air of just homeliness, I guess.
All right.
Okay. So
Homeliness. You're right. That's the wrong one.
It's a nice way of saying something ugly.
Yeah, you're right. Homeliness is
what?
That's what homey is a nice way of saying ugly.
Homey is different.
Homey is not. Homey is different. Okay, so Elaine touches Morgan on the shoulder. Would it be all right if I showed your other guests around your beautiful home, sister? Morgan takes a moment to think. I have matters to attend to as it is. You may do as you wish. And Morgan just kind of fades into the mist.
Voltaire just visibly just sighs. He's just,
oh, I know my sister can have that sort of effect.
a little bit. You are much easier to be around.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Cayden, please, come here. Take off that shawl.
Cayden has not actually visibly relaxed still. He's very tense.
Rian is totally able to tell.
I promise you that I have no desire to hurt you. I will not harm you.
He takes a moment to think on that, and then he goes ahead and removes the shawl, hands it back to Rian.
Elaine gently puts a hand on your back, and your back feels warm, and the pain is gone. Remove all your wounds.
Oh, wow. Any strain?
And all your strain.
Oh, yeah, it's that kind of thing. All right.
You are filled, like, you're just invigorated. You feel like a new man almost.
Which makes him kind of stand up straight, and then that thought crosses his mind and causes, again, a mixture of emotion on his face as he just kind of responds, thank you. He doesn't know how to address her, so he's just going to miss it.
Please, may I know your names? I do not wish to take them. I want to make that clear. I would just like to know your first name so I can speak to you properly.
Out of habit of dealing with the Fae, just Voltaire would say, I am called Voltaire by most.
It's nice to meet you, Voltaire.
Elianna bows her head very respectfully and smiling. They call me Elianna. It is a pleasure and an honor to meet you.
It is a pleasure to meet you as well, Elianna. You must be very brave. Not many summer children are welcome in my sister's home.
To be completely honest, I didn't quite expect to end up here. Now I'm glad I came.
Rian is still just utterly nervous.
Cayden's gonna nudge him.
Oh. You may call me Rian.
It is good to meet you, Rian. Now, please, you have no need to be nervous around me.
Just very much out of my usual element, is all.
I completely understand. My sister's realm is definitely a difficult place. Maybe one day I can show you my realm. It is much gentler.
And just nods that. As he's putting his shawl back on, he sees all the blood on the back. He's like, in his mind, he's like, oh, this is not going to come out easily.
Help. She waves her hand and the blood vanishes.
He's just wide-eyed at that. Thank you. As he puts it on.
Forgive me for being impertinent, but I assume both you and your sister know why we were forced to come here.
I did not know that you would be here until you arrived.
Well, to be fair, neither did we. But yes, it's been an interesting evening.
Are you willing to tell me the story? It sounds like it's certainly worth the tell.
Well, yes.
Well, actually, sorry, before you begin your story, do any of you need refreshment? We can go someplace more comfortable and get you some food and drink.
I would love a drink.
Yes, definitely.
I'll make sure none of my sister's people try to pull any particular tricks with it.
That would be very much appreciated.
Joan kind of chuckles at that. That's good. I'm familiar with the sort of things that Godmother's court like to do. It is good to finally meet you, Joan. I've heard about you, but it's very rare that I am able to visit my sister's realm. We're not very compatible, as you might guess. Yeah, I can guess that. So, will you come with me then, all of you?
Lead the way.
Cayden only nods.
Rian's following stiffly.
She takes the gang to like an open air pavilion.
As they're walking, just out of curiosity, are there any roses growing in her?
No, none of the flowers that are like just growing in her wake happen to be roses. There's daffodils, lilies, like there's tulips. It's mostly like the flowers that grow like at the very beginning of spring.
Okay.
That are all growing in her wake.
Okay.
Roses are
I'm pretty sure, I might be wrong, but I'm pretty sure roses are a little later in spring.
Yeah.
I'll buy it.
He's paranoid about roses, isn't he?
He's paranoid about
enough.
This is a fair thing to be paranoid.
He's paranoid about Faye. He just saw Morgan Le Fay. She could sneeze in our general direction, and we would cease to exist.
The pavilion is a few levels up in the island, and you realize as we go up these levels of the island, we go deeper into autumn. Like with each level, the trees have a few less leaves on them. More of the leaves are on the ground. The temperature drops a bit, and the night sky gets darker as well, or the twilight sky gets a little darker as well.
Okay.
She brings us to this open air pavilion with really nice couches, and like she just like touches the trees in the pavilion, and they like immediately change from autumn to spring, with, like flowers blooming on them, and like just the air in the pavilion warms up a bit.
Rian is just sticking with Cayden because he doesn't know anything else to do at the moment.
So Cayden's been doing following, and just for your context, I finally decided what his pajamas were. He most likely had like a very basic like t-shirt over his more or less athletic body. He's not like huge or anything. You could just tell that he's really fit, even for his age. And it's just probably a gray, like a light gray with like a pocket, except for it's still kind of bloodied on the back where there's a hole, several holes probably. But to be honest, he probably just wearing boxers.
Nice.
What's Voltaire wearing?
He just got finished on stage. He's in full on like opulent.
Yes.
Yeah, Joan just got off work. She's in her usual clothes.
Rian's wearing his usual hunter outfit because that's what he sleeps in all the time.
Oh, goodness me.
It's called You Gotta Be Ready When Something Pounces on You.
Yeah, but you gotta wash that every now and then, I hope.
He does.
Me.
He does.
Okay. All right, Elianna, we can hear what Elianna's wearing, and then...
Huh? Oh, she's just wearing silk pajamas, silk robe situation. Okay. It's floral, pretty basic. Yeah, so, but again, full face of makeup.
Is her hair a mess still, or is it flattened out by now?
What? No, I mean it was up in like a bun, like a messy
okay.
Going to bed about to wash my face bun.
So a trio of goblins show up, hunched over, everything's asymmetrical, but they're larger than the Tolkien D&D goblins. They're closer to 6 feet tall. They come in with a clean set of silk clothes of Cayden size.
We're ordered to get these clothes for you. We're laying them on the bench next to you.
Alrighty then. I did not expect that. As he thinks to himself, as he realizes that his gun is still just kind of tucked into the back of his boxers, 'cause that was the most convenient spot at the time. Oh, all right, yeah, those were probably needed. Thank you.
You're welcome.
They shuffle out, and it's a little bit later. These like almost spectral looking women in like long flowing black dresses come in and like bearing fruit trays and drinks and stuff that they put on the table in the center of the pavilion. And if someone wanted to make a quick knowledge supernatural check, they could know what they were.
Yes.
This is outside of Rian's
2 and 3
thing, so this would be no.
Okay. These are banshees.
Okay.
Good or bad banshees?
Actual folklore don't actually cause any harm. Banshees are harbingers of death. Harbinger meaning they announce it. They say it's coming.
Harbinger.
There's
not an R in
Harbinger. You said Harbinger, yeah.
No, I say it wrong all the time, and I don't know why.
I mean,
know
it makes sense.
It's true. Like
they bring the har.
Right.
It's harbinger. Yeah, they are harbingers of death. They scream their unearthly shriek,
and whoever hears it dies soon thereafter.
It's just a warning to the person. It doesn't actually cause the death.
Fun.
In Irish folklore, certain families would have their banshee that would show up.
Oh, really?
When a member of their family was about to die, and it would do its scream.
Okay.
Yeah,
Cayden would probably just know pretty well that that's what those are, right? Like, would he have to make a check?
I guess to know for certain whether or not they're dangerous, he might have to make a check. But you know that they are harbingers of death, and they are unseelie fae. And like they're an interesting mix because some of them are like young and beautiful, but a couple of them are old and haggard, and some of them like seem to switch back and forth. Like you look at them and then you like glance away and look back, and they've changed.
It's not every day you share a meal that's brought to you by a banshee.
Rian's like, just gives him a questionable look, like, banshee? What? He doesn't say, he just looks.
Yeah, Joan's like, yep, banshees. They're the most common ones in Godmother's court. They're not the worst. Watch out for the Lenenshee. They're the bad ones.
Rian is just stiff like a statue right now.
They're the ones that seem the nicest, though. Banshees are a little scarier, but Lenenshee are the ones you need to worry about.
Yeah, he's still as stiff as a statue at this point.
Cayden just kind of reaches over and just like pats him gently on the shoulder.
Artistic, are you?
Not really.
Okay, good. You're not in danger from them.
You just hear Voltaire mutter under his breath.
Elianna raises a finger and she's like, why does the artistic thing, why is that significant?
Len and she are muses of the harsh kind. They provide inspiration in exchange for blood and life force. Basically, I had an interesting childhood. This is where I was raised.
So if we just don't make any deals with anyone, we'll be fine?
Yeah, because the Lenenchi look really good, and their offers sound really good, and it's
Of course.
At this point, Voltaire would look up at Elaine and just be like, "Is this safe to drink?"
Yes, it is safe to drink. I made sure of it.
Oh yeah, what food's been
Yes,
brought out
thank you.
to us?
Various fruits, breads, drinks that you can't really identify. Like, you can identify some of the fruits, but not all of them. There's various pastries.
Okay, Voltaire goes and grabs his drink. He goes and grabs a drink and then starts talking with Elaine.
It tastes really good.
The best one you've ever had in your entire existence.
You can't tell what fruit it was made out of, but whatever it was, it tastes really good.
He walks over to Elaine, takes a drink, and then he's just like, "What on earth is this?"
Are we on Earth at this moment?
No. We're not. Yeah, for some of you, this is your first time leaving planet Earth. Or I guess, well, technically we're still planet bound. We're not on a different solar system or anything.
Different plane of existence.
Yeah, pretty much. We're in the magical realms now, where time doesn't work right, and neither does space.
But apparently the drinks are fantastic.
This little break is not as good as usual. We're kind of booking it to get this episode out. So I will keep this as brief as possible. We also have a pretty meaty mechanics moment coming up, so I will keep it short. I'm really glad you're listening. I hope you're having a wonderful day, a wonderful week. Hope you're having at least, a stable day or week. As always, we would love to hear from you on any of our social media. Find us on YouTube, Twitter, we're on Facebook now, Tumblr, any place, reach out, come join the Discord, come hang out with us. We'd love to make some contact with you. We don't have any sponsorships yet, so that's basically all I have to say in terms of mid-roll things, so I'm going to hand you over to Jonathan.
Hello again. It is I, your friendly GM, Jonathan. Today, I am here to give you your mechanics moment about equipment, which is a very broad category as it includes weapons, armor, and assorted other gear. To summarize, equipment or gear is just all the stuff that your character can potentially acquire throughout your various campaigns. Depending on what setting your campaign is, you will have different types of gear that you can acquire. Here in the Unseen World specifically, we, as an urban fantasy campaign, we have a fun mix of old-fashioned and modern weapons and such. So we've got everything from swords and chainmail to riot gear and missile launchers, which is fun. Everyone loves a missile launcher every now and then. So with weapons to start. So weapons, when you use them in combat, they have a certain skill that they require, whether that is brawl, melee heavy, melee light, ranged heavy, or ranged light. Then they do a certain amount of damage. We'll use a sword for an example. Basic, everyone knows what a sword is. Unless you don't, in which case I am sorry for you because swords are awesome. Swords, they use, your average sword uses melee light because it is a one-handed weapon. The main difference between a light weapon and a heavy weapon is just whether it requires one hand or two hands to wield. That's the only real difference. You can have relatively heavy or light weapons that are in the categories you wouldn't expect because it's just based on how many hands you're using. So a melee light sword or a one-handed sword would have +3 damage. So some weapons have straight damage, like they do 5 damage. Others will have a plus and then a type of damage. That means that they will deal damage equal to your brawn rating plus that much. So a sword, if you are an average human with 2 brawn, will deal 5 damage, 2 + 5. If you're some like hulking barbarian with 5 brawn, which is the max you can typically get, then you'd be doing 8 damage with every swing with a sword. And then all weapons also have a critical rating. So what this means is how many advantages are required to roll in a combat check to land a critical hit on your enemy. So you want to have as low of a crit rating as possible. Luckily, swords have a crit rating of 2. So it only takes 2 advantages to crit an opponent with a sword. Swords have engaged range. So the range of your weapon is basically how close your enemy needs to be in order for you to hit them. You have weapons that the longest range you can get is extreme range, which is like a football field away or more. And then you've got short range, which means you are likely in the same room. Engaged range means that they are within punching distance, basically. They are within arm's reach, more or less. almost all melee weapons and brawl weapons will be engaged range. In very rare circumstances, you might have a melee weapon that is short range because it's just so long that you can hit people further away. Short range means they are outside of arm's reach, but in these, like, they would be in the same room as you if you were in an enclosed space, about that range. All of these ranges are vague, so you don't have to worry about exactly measuring out exactly how close people are. Medium range, you're across the street from someone, maybe longer than that, like a full house away from someone. And then long range, shouting distance, you can hear them if you shout, but anything less, not going to be able to hear them. And then extreme, you can't hear them no matter how loud you shout. They're on the opposite end of like 2 football fields or a football field and a half. Oh, and all items, weapons, armor, and gear have an encumbrance, which is basically both how heavy something is and just how much space it takes up. Because certain things aren't really heavy, but they're kind of hard to carry around. Like if you tried carrying around a mattress, even if it's not particularly heavy, if it's a lighter mattress, those things are still not easy to carry around because they're just so big. And so that's kind of what encumbrance does, is it takes into account both the weight and just general difficult to carryness of the item. Swords, being relatively easy to carry, are encumbrance 1. Everything also has a price. Your sword typically is 200, whatever currency you're using. So gold, dollars, credits, etc. In the Unseen World specifically, we do not actually deal with prices, as we use the wealth skill to determine how to purchase items. So we get to ignore that particular section, and we have extra focus on the next section, which is the rarity of the item. Rarity determines how easy or difficult it is to find an item. Typically determines the difficulty of a check, of a streetwise check, for example, to find a place that will sell you the item. Or a computer's check to find a website that will sell you the item. And in our setting, you also would make a wealth check to determine if you can afford to purchase the item based on its rarity. Swords are rarity 2, so typically pretty easy to get a sword. You can buy a sword online without difficulty, and if you're in a medieval setting, most blacksmiths in medieval fantasy will make swords. And then there are also special qualities that you can have that, like, you might have a shotgun has blast, where it can hit multiple people besides your initial target just from the blast radius of the shot, et cetera, et cetera. Swords specifically have defensive 1, which means while you're holding a sword, you gain 1 melee defense. The counterpart for range defense is called deflection. So swords, because if you have a sword in your hand, it's easier to block other melee weapons. You get 1 melee defense when you have a sword. So that is weapons with our example of a sword. Other than that, so after weapons, we have armor. So armor in this setting comes in basically 2 varieties. We have got archaic and modern. We'll use the classic plate mail armor for our example here. So all armor has a defense rating, which is how much melee and range defense the armor gives you. The armor, unlike weapons, which will give you one or the other usually, armor always gives you both. Some armor will give you 0, some 2, some 1. It's very rare to find armor that gives you more than 2 defense. But so plate armor, for example, gives you 1 defense. So you have a melee and range defense of 1 while wearing plate armor. So whenever people attack you, they get 1 setback die. All armor also has a soak value, usually between 0 and 3. Rare occasions, you might get something cooler. Plate armor has a soak of 2. So this, or technically of soak of plus 2. The soak that your armor gives you is added on top of whatever your brawn is to give you your total soak. So if you are a normal human wearing plate armor, you will have a soak of 4. If you are the aforementioned barbarian with 5 brawn and you put on plate armor, though I've heard barbarians don't like wearing armor, So if a barbarian puts on plate armor, you're going to have 7 soak, using the specific example of the barbarian with 5 brawn. All armor also has an encumbrance rating, like weapons. Plate armor has an encumbrance rating of 4, but armor has a special rule when it comes to encumbrance. All armor is 3 encumbrance less while worn, because, well, it's a lot easier to walk around in armor than it is to carry armor in your arms, especially something like plate armor. It'd be very difficult to just lug around a bunch of bits of plate with you. So while worn, plate armor actually has an encumbrance value of 1. But if you're going to try to carry it around, it has an encumbrance of 4. Like weapons, there's a price and a rarity. Plate armor would usually be $1,250, credits, gold, etc. But we don't use that in the unseen world. So instead we focus on the rarity of plate armor, which is 6. Plate armor is a little more expensive and a little harder to get your hands on than your average sword. So you need to make the proper wealth check to be able to buy a suit of plate armor. Like weapons, armor sometimes have additional things. In the case of plate armor, they've got an additional negative effect in that plate armor is loud and jangly. You can't run around in plate armor without making some noise. So while wearing plate armor, you add 2 setback dice to any stealth checks you make because you're loud and clanky. Gear is basically everything else. Anything that is not a weapon, is not armor, and is not a magical implement falls into the gear section. This is everything from cell phones to torches to lockpicking sets, and they have all kinds of different effects depending on what it is you're getting. And it would be a fool's errand to try to explain all of them. And then we'll end with the potions and pharmaceuticals, which is basically just drinkable gear. Items that are one use because you are drinking or eating them. We have energy drinks and painkillers in here. In other settings, you'll usually have health potions or stim packs and such things. And painkillers basically allow you to temporarily ignore some of your wounds as you dull the pain. And energy drinks allow you to temporarily ignore some strain as you just give yourself a temporary burst of energy. In essence, they both, one does strain, one does wounds, but they heal 5 points of either strain or wounds, but any additional usage of the same item within 24 hours will reduce the effect. As the more energy drinks you have, the less they will be able to keep you awake. And the more painkillers you take, there's a limit to how much painkillers can help you. Unfortunately, unlike magical health potions or super sci-fi stim packs, painkillers and energy drinks are also temporary helps. And after a few hours, they will wear off and will no longer have their beneficial effects, and you'll get the full brunt of those wounds and or strain all over again. And that, my friends, is equipment. Equipment is a lot of stuff and encompasses basically everything you're going to probably get your hands on at some point in a campaign. Thank you for listening to my long-winded explanation. Have a great day.
Rian is just overly cautious of everything at this point.
Wise man.
Normally, I'd agree with you, Rian, but she did promise that it would do us absolutely no harm, which fairies can't lie. Like, they're very good at deceiving, but there's not much she can do with that wordage. Or at least, I don't know, Elianna, can you think of anything that she can do with that wordage that I didn't see?
What was it precisely again?
I can assure you that none of this drink or food will cause you harm in any way, or will cause any undesired changes or
Wait, is she like adding on what she said?
Yeah, she's adding. She understands how people think of the Fae. Just basically that this food exists to fill your bellies and to taste very good. It has no purpose other than that. Or I guess, well, it will provide nutritional value. I should specify that. It does not just fill your belly. I forget fill your belly has a different connotation now that, nutritional science is a thing.
That sounds pretty comprehensive.
I'm still getting used to it. It's a little hard to keep track of the sciences. I found out not too long ago about some of the things that are going on in science these days. It's fascinating. Sorry.
Oh, my dear lady, I gave up trying to follow science eons ago.
After that very comprehensive comment on all of that, Hayden was beyond hesitant. But even after that, he's like, okay. He needs something after the night he's had. So he'll go.
I think Rian would cautiously pick up anything that looks something... let's say something that looks like an apple.
Okay.
But he doesn't immediately eat it.
It is once you bite into it, is the most crisp, the most delicious apple you've ever had.
So he just looks at it for a few moments and then takes a small bite out of it. I think it would calm him down a little bit.
So please, tell me your story.
I think if Cayden, would you like to start, or should I just start?
Cayden was in the middle of eating something, and he just kind of pauses and looks over at Voltaire, and he just sigh. Well,
I can start.
I gotta remember he doesn't look. He is in the middle of it, and he pauses, then sighs and puts down the plate. Well, it all really started about maybe an hour or so ago, where I woke up to some kind of sound in my room, and I reached for my gun, and then whatever thing that I smelled, which was just horrid, and I tried shooting it. Didn't really do much. I hit it 3 times. Yeah, that didn't do nothing. Found out a while later. I took off, basically, taking a few things with me like I could, and made it onto the street, even after getting, you saw, and then made my way over to a gas station and called up, I tried calling you first, Elianna, but that really didn't work.
Did you have my number? I didn't get a call.
No. You think that I know the numbers? I just ask Siri, and she does it for me most of the time. He just gestures to himself. I didn't really have a phone on me. I had to borrow that poor gas station attendant's phone. It was a whole operator thing that some man answered as not important. Anyway.
Okay. Sorry, continue. Elianna looks slightly alarmed, but she leans back. She's like, all right.
And so I called up Joan. She contacted all of you, and then it found me. Well, it found the gas station attendant first. Again, poor fellow. I made it out, and Voltaire arrived pretty much right in the nick of time. And I don't know, Voltaire, do you want to take over from there?
Well, that sounds truly harrowing.
Cayden just nods.
Better in what way?
In the way that I saw it, and had flashbacks to a rather unpleasant time in the Midwest, where I ended up encountering a skinwalker.
Her eyes widen a bit. A skinwalker?
Yes.
You just hear a big sigh from Rian.
That is not something that you'd typically find in your, neck of the woods, you'd call it.
No. I try to avoid them when I can. So I arrived. I really need to pay that driver much more than I did. But I arrived. Cayden looked like he looked when he got here. Absolutely awful. And the thing was a bear. It was coming, and it took a blast full on from a shotgun. And as you can imagine, that worked about as well as Cayden's got.
I even hit it with my sword cane. Yeah, that did nothing too.
I don't get into conflicts much myself, but I've heard that skinwalkers are quite difficult to deal with.
Yeah, Rian just brings a hand to his head. He's just shaking it as he hears these guys, their attempts to try and kill. He's like,
I assume you have some experience in this matter?
I do, yes. I have hunted one or two of them over the years, and...
Really? You've killed a skinwalker?
Yes, there's 2 ways in order to kill them, and it's... One is definitely more difficult than the other, but...
That is quite impressive. You should be proud of yourself. And you just feel warmth come over you as she says that.
Thank you. But yes, then me, Joan, Elianna, we got to the gas station after they had left.
Oh yeah, it was coming after us. We scrapped. We got out of there as fast as we could. My idea was to find the nearest place, burn it to the ground, and then drown this thing in ash.
Yeah, I'm the reason why there was no arson committed. I can understand your desire to find any means necessary, but I am glad that my dear niece was able to convince you otherwise.
To be honest, I first stepped through and didn't think the situation had improved.
I can understand that.
Yes, and yeah, the only 2 ways to kill a skinwalker is either with weapons covered in white ash or by saying its true name in its presence. You could probably understand which would be the hardest of the 2.
Yes, I would imagine it would be hard to find the true name of the thing that's trying to kill you.
It is incredibly difficult.
It has so far attempted to kill Cayden and Rian, but it is reasonable to assume it's also after the rest of us.
Well, I can assure you that it cannot follow you here. My sister can be harsh, but she does not allow unsavories to enter her realm without her permission.
We are very grateful to you and your sister for that.
Well, I cannot claim any responsibility for your safety in that regard. I only have the power here that my sister allows me.
Well, you're providing plenty of comfort, at least.
I'm glad that I can do that for you. Though, I have to ask, why do you hide your natural hair color? Your natural hair color, I can tell, is quite beautiful.
I found it prudent to make a temporary adjustment in order to deal with some social dynamics in the more mortal social spheres. I intend to go back to it as soon as I can, of course.
I understand. Wait. Joan's like, wait, holds up her hand. What's your natural hair color?
You're also looking in curiosity at this.
It's a sort of a pinkish color.
Man, I want to see this now.
Maybe someday.
Well, it has been a true pleasure getting to meet you and hear your story and learn a little more about you all. I unfortunately, I am not simply here because I enjoy it. I do have some business to do with my sister, but I have set it up that you should not suffer any harm while you are here, at least as long as I am in Avalon. After that, I'm afraid Joan will have to ensure your safety from then. I have to leave you now. Thank you for your time.
Rian nods and tilts his hat toward her.
She smiles and gives like a little curtsy, and then she vanishes into a gentle flowery breeze.
Okay, that was wonderful. That was excellent.
The face comes down. Hey, Joan, do you want to maybe give us just a little forewarning before you take us right into the heart of some of those most powerful fae in existence?
Yes, about that.
Just a little warning. Just a comment. Just a oh, by the way, that would be nice.
You are goddaughter of Morgan Le Fay.
Yeah.
Cayden actually chuckles a little bit at this.
That would have been a pertinent piece of information.
I mean,
just be like, hey, by the way, my godmother is the most powerful fae.
I was kind of hoping I never have to come back here.
Which is why I was surprised you even suggested it, really.
Well, my original plan was to just kind of kick you through the way.
Yeah, I imagine a thing like that.
I was just gonna, speed you along. It only became when I found out Rian was also attacked, which means you were not the only target, which means I might be the target, and I like living. So
Living is good.
I'm rather proud of it myself, which surprised me as I walked through to see Morgan Le Fay. I can't even express to you my desire to melt into the dirt and just not be here.
Just keep your mouth shut anytime she or her servants or whatever are around, and you'll be fine. And do not shoot anything.
As long as I'm here, then you should all be safe.
That raises my second question. How long are we going to be here?
It shouldn't be that difficult for you guys to leave.
What about you?
It was not easy the first time.
I feel as though we deserve a story.
After what happened tonight, I think that would not be a bad idea.
Yes, miss. We're all ears.
You know some of it already.
I never asked many questions, though.
Okay, well, in case I don't know why everyone's just interrogating me. Cayden works for my godmother.
Yeah, no, that's a good point.
Works for Goddaughter.
Okay.
Cayden just nods.
I guess backstory time then. Okay, so I was abandoned by my parents when I was still a baby. Godmother took me in and raised me here in Avalon. And let's just say it's not the best of childhoods growing up in the middle of the unseelie land of fairy.
And imagine it was.
I was taught from an early age how to spot liars, how to lie, how to trick. And I never, I guess I never really apologized for that time, Cayden.
He raises an eyebrow, but doesn't say anything.
I did not know better back then. At one point, Cayden tried to get me out when I was little. But I still believed that my godmother had my best interests in heart like she always claimed. And so I ended up leading him back to her. And I don't know what punishment she gave him.
That would explain a lot. Go on.
When we first met, I thought he had been sent by Godmother to bring me back. So Godmother taught me. She always assured me that she had my best interests at heart. It turned out that her idea of my best interests and my idea of my best interests are not the same thing. She wanted me to become a permanent member of her court. Apparently, if you live among the Fae long enough, you can choose to become one.
Interesting.
So my godmother tried to basically mold me into her. If you notice, she doesn't call me goddaughter.
Uh-huh.
I finally realized what it meant, what she wanted, and I ran. That was a few years ago. I've been hiding in Vegas ever since. Then, Fae don't change their minds easily, so I am pretty sure that my godmother still has the same plans for me that she had then.
That's safe to assume.
So she's probably not going to want me to leave anytime soon.
Interesting.
Cayden's kind of put his head, like kind of in the position that I'm holding, just kind of like sitting there thinking as he's listening to all of this.
I can't see you. Do you want to make a word picture?
Really?
Yeah.
Make a word picture, especially for our listeners.
Yeah, that's fair. So he kind of had leaned in his chair and rested his chin on his hands. His elbows were on his knees, and his hands kind of joined together up front to just like lay it on there. He has what you could guess is a very thoughtful expression on his face, just as he's listening to it, but still has not said anything.
Joan, how did you get out the first time?
That particular way was closed behind me.
Do you remember who we are talking about?
This
Sorry, English mythology and lore is not quite my cup of tea.
Welcome to the fairy tales.
This is my godmother's realm. She basically controls everything here. I was lucky, insanely lucky to find the way out that I did. And I found that after a good while of searching. It's possible that there's another way out that I don't know of. If there is, I don't know it.
Well, that complicates matters.
Greatly.
I'm kind of surprised that you really care about that. No offense, but...
Well, you're not wrong, my dear. I don't care about a great many things, as I'm sure you have all noticed.
Rian just rolls.
But I know something of what it's like to grow up with thinking someone has your best interests at heart. But while we are here, it may be nice to find some information. If you recall, our half-djinn friend, may he roast in hell, he was talking about a lady of the fairy court.
Yeah, there's definitely plenty in Godmother's court that would be brutal enough for what we saw.
And as mistrusting as I am, I didn't notice any roses in the path of Elianna, the very nice flower lady.
Yeah, I didn't know my godmother had a sister.
She doesn't strike me as the touchy-feely family sort of type.
No. You ever watch Tangled?
Passing.
Think Mother Gothel.
Very interesting. But I know it's been a while, but in your time here, as vague as it sounds, is there anybody in your godmother's courts who has a particular proclivity to roses?
Not that I can remember. There's not a lot of growing people here. Most of them are either people who announce death is coming, or people who lead you to die, or people that directly kill you.
So I take it roses aren't exactly involved in any of those three.
I was always kept at a distance from. I never got to know a lot of the details of anyone in the court.
Yes.
I was kept by my godmother's side most of the time. She kept me very close.
Understandable.
So yeah, there's only so much I can help with there.
But anyway, I think I can speak for us all that none of us want to stay here any longer than we have to.
I personally have to be gone by the time Elaine leaves.
However, there is the still unfortunate matter that there is a skinwalker in a different plane just waiting for us to come back out and murder us.
Oh, yes,
true.
There wouldn't happen to be a source of white ash that we could stock up on any place near here.
Yes, that should definitely come in handy.
It seems like the realm of Morgan Le Fay would have some interesting resources.
Anything that gets damaged here pretty much repairs itself instantly. So I guess cutting down and burning a tree, the tree will grow right back and be back into its normal autumnness a few seconds later.
Right.
Excellent, Warzasa. Or, forgive me, manners. Or should we beseech someone before we start hacking down trees?
Probably.
Should probably ask the tree.
Ask the tree?
This is fairyland, pal. The trees are typically fairies too.
Cayden just shakes his head.
Joan, forgive me, my tree isn't exactly very good.
You don't need to speak. I'll talk to the tree.
Voltaire was in his element, shooting things, gonna go burn some place to the ground. Then we walked through. And he was face to face. Morgan Le Fay, one of the few beings in existence that could look his way and just have him wither and die on a whim.
Yeah. Which, interestingly enough, withering is her particular form.
That's her whole thing.
We're great assassins.
So something that wasn't mentioned that Nathaniel's that Rian would know that I indicated but didn't state directly is skinwalkers become more powerful the more frightened of them you are.
That's gonna be pertinent to know.
So when example like how it got got stronger and it seemed like it had more of a presence after you did that fear check.
After I failed that fear check, yeah.
It's because it became stronger when you were scared of it.
So
also they can take
that can curse you.
And take control of you if you look at it in the eye.
What?
Well, Cayden has one thing, I guess.
Experience?
Please.
25 experience for everyone.
All right.
I get 25 experience for doing literally nothing. What a great
You
day.
get 25 experience for not going to bed.
True.
Pretty much.
Yeah, just staying up late and going into a very dangerous situation.
Who's gonna get?
Everyone except Elianna had like a spotlight in this session.
She made she did some networking, like.
She met basically the biggest person on her side of the second biggest person on her side of the tracks.
Not ready. It was not ready. I was in my pajamas.
I vote extra goes to Cayden
for everything.
What, out of pity? So much happened.
That's true.
Because A, you almost died.
Yes.
Yeah.
B,
That's true.
I thoroughly enjoyed the fact that you pretty much made the gas station attendant pee himself before he got viciously murdered.
That was fun. I did enjoy that.
And see, I hit you in the face with my phone.
So it is a little bit of pity. Okay. I don't know. What is it? How does everyone else feel?
I am in total agreement.
I personally would nominate Voltaire, which I know I always do, but I just really enjoyed seeing how he's going around, he's being brash and forceful and whatever, and just shooting everything, and then suddenly I just loved his reaction to be suddenly being forced into this situation in which careful wordplay and decorum are the most important things, and him just being like, "This is my worst nightmare. I don't even know what to do with." I just enjoyed how that
I
went
enjoyed it a
down.
lot too.
Satan has no power. Neither does God. No one has power.
No one
except for
Morgan.
Manners is the only thing that has power here.
You have no power here, Voltaire.
Yeah, in case you haven't noticed, he can do it. He just sucks at it.
Yes.